I'm Angela.
And I'm Paige.
Join us as we dive into our obsession with true crime, history, and mysterious stories. We'll explore the intricate details of the corrupt, the cruel, and the calculating.
We assume no responsibility or liability for any errors or omissions in the content of this episode. The Corrupt Podcast is based on the facts and our opinions of the case. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Corrupt Podcast.
You might know Lois Duncan as the author of young adult suspense, thriller, and horror novels. Lois was popular in the 1970s and 80s with books like I Know What You Did Last Summer, Killing Mr. Griffin, and Stranger with My Face. What you might not know is that Lois and her family would become caught up in a murder investigation over the death of her 18-year-old daughter, Kaitlyn Arquette, that felt straight out of one of Lois's books. We're traveling to New Mexico this week. I Know What You Did Last Summer was published in 1973, but refreshed to be made more current in 2010. There's also the 1997 movie and another sequel in 2025. So I Know What You Did Last Summer, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer, and then movie 4 is back to I Know What You Did Last Summer with the same title, because that's not confusing at all.
Not at all. So I've watched all 3 movies quite a while ago. When I did a rewatch of I Know What You Did Last Summer, just the first one, I noticed Johnny Galecki, I think that's how you pronounce it, from The Big Bang Theory. I was like, holy crap, he's in this?
I know. There were a lot of people in that movie.
Yeah. And how thin bangs can be on a forehead. Did you see the bangs on Jennifer Love Hewitt? Her bangs are so thin.
She's so gorgeous.
I know, she can pull it off. She honestly can pull it off. But they were bothering me so much when I was watching the movie again. The bangs were imported from another galaxy. They just bugged me so much.
I'm with you. I just kept staring at her bangs for some reason. Maybe it is because they were so thin, or they just don't look
so
normal
thin,
for her face.
So spaced out.
Yes, they were.
It was just, why even have them? Why?
Well, and my husband and I, we debated on if this was before or after Buffy. Is this, I think, before Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right? For Sarah Michelle Gellar.
I thought it was after, because she looks a little bit older, but I don't know when Buffy started, because this was...
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
What, 97?
This is 97. The scene where the character Helen, or Sarah Michelle Gellar, is like pulling herself up with the rope, and the guy with the hook's like trying to get at her ankles.
Yeah.
I was watching that. I'm like, this has to be Buffy era, because she is just pulling on that rope, and it's definitely 1997.
Yeah, it is. It was cringy at some parts, but
yes.
Like we said, it was 1997.
So I reread the book and rewatched the movie. And
you were just an overachiever. You always...
Yeah, okay. Well, the book is not that long. It's only 4 or 5 hours long. It's pretty short. I listened to it. I did the audiobook. But it is 2 very different stories. Like, completely different storylines. I will say that. If you've never read the book, I would definitely recommend the book. Anything by Lois Duncan, teenage me, highly recommending that. This is what started my love for the Salem witch trials, is because she wrote this book called Gallows Hill that's like reincarnation. Blew my mind as a teenager.
Really?
The concept is the kids come back and they're reincarnated from the victims and the young girls that were prosecuting everybody. So all of them are back in like present day life, and they kind of go through that same circle.
Ugh.
She is, I'm telling you, Lois Duncan, she is a master. I feel like I was in high school, so maybe 14, 15. I wasn't allowed to watch PG-13 movies unless I was 13. So
Really?
I feel like I was maybe a little bit more sheltered than the average 13-year-old.
I watched rated R movies when I was young, so...
No, I had to be 17. That was the rule in the house. Look where it's got me. Sheltered, but true crime podcast host.
And I'm sure your parents are nothing but proud.
Oh, so proud. I'm pretty sure they just skip me, though, and they just go straight to my son. So
They skip you. No.
Yeah, you know. They're like, yeah, you're fine. But that kid of yours, he's the bee's knees.
Speaking of kids, when I was rewatching this movie, there was a part in the very beginning, I don't know if you remember, where they throw the fisherman like in the lake or in the river or whatever. And he was in the water and Ryan Phillippe, his character, jumps in and tries to take the crown out of his hands, and like the fisherman's eyes flew open. And it made me jump. And here my daughter is sitting next to me. She has headphones on. And she noticed that I jumped, and so she looked at the screen, and all I hear is her asking, "Is that Donald Trump?"
What?
I think it was the hair. I think it was the hair like flowing in the water, and it was just extra high or something. I don't know, but leave it to her to calm my nerves in a suspenseful moment right there.
That's hilarious. I mean, it could have been Trump, I guess. Back then.
It threw me off so much. Also, is this the movie where Freddie and Sarah, they meet? They meet? This is their first meeting? It wasn't Scooby-Doo? Because I know they're in Scooby-Doo as well.
Yeah, so I Googled this actually because I got sucked into this. I'm like, is this where they met? And it is. So I guess Sarah Michelle or Freddie Prinze, one of them did not have their driver's license. I think it was Sarah Michelle. So Freddie Prinze Jr. would actually drive her, and they became good friends while this was filming. And they've been married for 20 plus years now.
Applause. That's amazing.
I love them so much.
They're so cute.
I'm with you. I remember the Scooby-Doo movies.
Oh, I love them.
Yeah, those are good. I'm not sure how they're going to hold up to time. I have not watched them in like 20 years, but
yeah,
it was cutting edge technology for the early 2000s.
It was. It was very crisp.
It was scary.
It was, yeah.
And I think that was Matthew Lillard's first Shaggy, right?
I think so.
Justice for Matthew Lillard. I'm team Matthew Lillard over here.
Justice? What are you talking about?
He totally got the shaft on the new Scooby-Doo. They didn't ask him to be Shaggy. He's been Shaggy for 20 years. And nobody knows. He was expecting them to call, and they didn't. They chose somebody else.
That's a little bogus. I see him at the cons that I watch over and stuff, and he's just like so nice to his fans, and he hugs them.
Aww.
And
that in that movie, Without a Paddle?
Yeah.
That was a good one. So Lois actually wrote other novels that were not all suspense, young adult books. She wrote Hotel for Dogs, which I bet was a nice change from suspense for her.
Whoop, whoop.
And then
Emma Roberts, right? Emma Roberts is in that.
Yeah, the movie.
I
think
love
it's a 2009
her.
movie.
She's so good.
Early Emma Roberts.
Yeah. She did another movie. Wasn't it like, shoot. It was like a investigator type show.
Was she Nancy?
Nancy Drew.
Nancy Drew.
Yeah. Loved that too.
That was a good one. I think they've got another new Nancy Drew as well. I can't keep up. There's remaking everything. Grumbly old lady over here. Something original. Stop doing remakes.
That's how they keep things fresh, Paige.
No. I think they're redoing Harry Potter now, too.
What?
Yeah, give it a couple years. They'll be doing Lord of the Rings all over again. I'm going to not going to be there for that.
I'm probably going to be there for that, to be honest.
The new Viggo Mortensen?
Well, I wasn't...
He better still be in it.
Yes, I agree with that.
Orlando Bloom. I can keep going.
I agree with both of those. I agree. But I wasn't really like a hardcore fan when it first came out. So I think I have more of an open mind.
No.
Maybe.
No, I don't. I can't. How are we friends now?
But I agree that they should bring back the original characters. Same with Harry Potter. They should bring back the original characters. I still have not watched 2 to what, 8 or whatever it is.
It's just not right, Angela.
I've read 4 books, but that's as far as I got. I'm sorry.
You're just not right. Yeah.
You're disappointed in me. Sorry, guys. We gotta stop this podcast. We're not gonna do it anymore because Paige is fed up with me.
No longer friends. No, I think we can still stay friends, but we definitely need to get you on the straight and narrow here. You got to watch some Harry Potter.
I will.
Read The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I will. I'm still on The Hobbit. You know this.
Yeah, I think I've read The Hobbit 4 times since you've started The Hobbit. I read that book every single year.
If everyone could just see your hand, it just goes up every time you're disappointed. You're like, my God. What?
How? How? How?
I'm a slow reader, you know this.
The Hobbit is like 250 pages.
Okay, don't judge me.
I am not judging.
Sensing some judgment.
My hand went up again. I know. I'm sorry.
Guys, hashtag don't judge Angela. Goodness.
Hashtag finish The Hobbit. It's been years. It has to have been three years since you started that book.
3 years since you gave it to my daughter. Yeah.
Yeah, get on it.
I don't know. Maybe it was only 2. She's thinking, guys. She's thinking.
We'll go with 2. So, reeling this back in with Kaitlyn Arquette, my husband and I actually watched this old Unsolved Mysteries episode, and on it was Kaitlyn Arquette. We both remember Lois as the author, but we had no idea that her daughter had been murdered.
Yeah, I actually did not know about her daughter being murdered. Then again, I didn't even know the movie was based on a book. So there's that.
She wrote a sequel too. So she wrote the I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. So there's 2 books out there. You can get them from the library for free. Just throwing that out there.
Thank you for that advice. Kaitlyn Claire Arquette was born in September 1970. Known as Kate, she was the youngest of 5 kids. Her mother, Lois, would describe Kate as mischievous, stubborn, funny, and smart. On June 14, 1989, Kate graduated from Highland High School in Albuquerque, New Mexico. She was an honor student and had been accepted at the University of New Mexico. Kate had attended college classes in her senior year of high school, and her hope was to continue on to be a doctor.
Kate had a boyfriend, Yoon. I'm going to pause here. So his name is spelled, and it looks like dung, so D-U-N-G. So you'll hear some people pronounce it as dung. However, he's Vietnamese, so you actually pronounce it Yoon.
Never heard that before. Never.
It's unique. Yeah. That's because we have names like Paige and Angela. So it's pretty easy to pronounce those names. I thought that was really interesting. So back to Kate's boyfriend. They had been together for over a year when she moved in with him just before graduating high school. Yoon was 8 years older than Kate. But knowing that her parents wouldn't be okay with that large age gap, they told her parents that he was only 4 years older. So if you're doing the math here, that means that when Kate was 17, Yoon was 25.
Come on, man. That's not cool. You love who you love, but just wait until people are of age.
Yeah, it's definitely not right. And it's not the first thing that they're going to lie about, but it doesn't come out until after Kate's death how many things she had been kind of covering up for him. Yoon had fled to the United States from Vietnam by boat, and he spoke very minimal English at that time. Overall, Kate's family liked Yoon, and he was around the house a lot. Later, the family couldn't remember how or when exactly Kate met him, basically that he just showed up and they liked him.
Kaitlyn accepted a position as a supervisor at a Pier 1 imports store. She was also taking college classes through the summer term of 1989. On the morning of Sunday, July 16, 1989, Kaitlyn hung around her parents' home most of the morning. Kate's dad, Don, joked that they saw more of her now that she had her own apartment than they did when she lived with them. She had been fighting with Yoon and did not want to go home and talk with him.
Kate and Yoon had been fighting a lot since moving in together, and Kate told some of her friends that she was thinking about breaking up with him. She had asked Yoon to move out, but he refused, saying that in Vietnam, women do what men tell them. Kaitlyn had given Yoon until the end of the month to move out, and was hoping that her friend Laura would move into the apartment with her. One of the challenging parts with Kate and Yoon living together was Yoon's friends always being at the apartment. She didn't like his friends because they only spoke Vietnamese and were rude to her.
That evening, Kaitlyn stopped at her parents' home again. Lois and Don were watching 60 Minutes when she walked in the door. Kaitlyn's eyes were red and puffy from crying. Kate initially said it was because the rain depressed her, but then did admit she had been fighting with Yoon. Kate planned to drive to Old Town to have dinner with her friend Susan. Lois hadn't met Susan, and she asked Kaitlyn to write down Susan's phone number. They told Kaitlyn to drive safely. Kaitlyn raised her hand in a half salute saying, "Later, I'll see you guys later," and was gone. Kaitlyn left her parents' home at 6:15 p.m. in her 1984 red Ford Tempo.
Just before midnight, Lois and Dawn received a call from the University of New Mexico Hospital. The nurse said that Kate had been at the hospital, but wouldn't say what her condition was. When Lois and Dawn reached the hospital, that same nurse was outside waiting for them, which I think we can all agree is not a good sign. Thinking that it had been some kind of a car accident, they were obviously shocked to learn that Kate had been shot in the head, and it was probable that she wouldn't survive. Kate had been identified by the ID in her wallet. She was rushed into x-rays and scans while her parents sat in the waiting room. A homicide detective arrived to speak with Lois and Dawn. He had already spoken with Susan Smith. According to Susan, Kate had arrived at her apartment around 7:30 p.m. Kate was stressed and paranoid during her stay. She asked Susan to call her apartment repeatedly to see if Yoon was home, then hang up if he answered, but Yoon never answered the phone. Initially, Kate had planned to stay the night, but then suddenly she remembered a test that she had to study for her college class the next day. She left Susan's house between 9:30 to 10:45 p.m.
Minutes after leaving Susan's house, Kate pulled up to a stoplight when a vehicle pulled up beside her, and 3 shots were fired into her car. She would lose control of the car, drift across 3 lanes of oncoming traffic, and strike a pole. 1 bullet had struck Kate's cheek and another entered her temple. The first officer at the scene was off-duty Detective Ronald Merriman at 11 p.m. Detective Ronald just happened to be driving through when he heard the report. In the detective's report, he stated that he saw a gray primer-painted VW Beetle and a man named Paul Apodaca standing next to Kate's Ford when he pulled up.
The second officer to arrive at the scene was Mary Ann Wallace. She arrived 40 seconds after Ronald Merriman. Unlike Ronald, she did not see the VW Beetle, but did see Paul standing outside Kate's car. Mary Ann called in a car accident without injuries, even though Kate was lying across both front seats bleeding.
Why? What the hell?
It's the start of a very confusing situation with the police. Paul Apodaca was never interviewed. Paul provided his name and what turned out to be a fake phone number to police that evening. They didn't take his statement or even ask his address. When the medics arrived, Kate was alone in her car. The bystanders, police officers, and Paul were all gone. Kate was still alive, and the medics noted that she was moaning in pain, but no first aid had been provided to her before the 2 officers left her in the car alone. A known sex offender, Paul Apodaca, was standing beside Kate's car and told the police that he was in the area to buy drugs. But yet they still didn't interview him or take additional information from him. They had no idea who Paul was. The medics in their affidavit stated that they almost missed Kate's car because it was dark and raining with no police presence. When the EMTs arrived, they found Kaitlyn's red Ford parked with Kaitlyn slumped over in the seat. The 2 or 3 bullets have never been found, so those were removed as well. But where they've gone, nobody knows.
Isn't that suspicious?
So, just think this situation out. An off-duty officer rolls up. He sees a man standing outside of the car. The man says, "Oh, don't mind me. I just saw this car crash. I'm over here trying to buy drugs." And there's no follow-up questions there. Not a single question comes to that officer's mind. Or 40 seconds later, the second officer's mind.
So Paul told the officer that he was buying drugs.
Yeah, he's just in the neighborhood to buy some drugs.
And the officer didn't even care to ask, okay, are they illegal? Like, what kind of drugs are you buying here?
I think he would have said, "I'm just going to CVS" if it was legal.
Very true.
Just throwing that out there.
But common sense, if he's leaning up against Kate's car or he's somewhere in the vicinity of the area, guess what? You're a suspect.
But they don't call on him. They have no idea. And he had a history at that point. So if they had even gone back and looked up his name at any point in the next 30 years, they would have found a hit, right?
Yeah.
It's just shoddy police work, which I will almost never say. I am team police, but they really jack this one up.
Agreed. Kaitlyn's family was warned that the next 48 hours would be crucial, but if she did survive, that she would never be the same due to the brain damage. Lois and Dawn told their oldest son, Brett, first. Brett was living in a house with a couple of other guys, and the phone rang busy. They assumed he was entertaining a girl at 2 a.m. and had taken the phone off the hook. Here's the weird thing, though. When they arrived at his apartment, Brett was standing outside waiting for them. The family then went to pick up their other son, 21-year-old Donnie. Kate's sister, Carrie, was living in Texas, and other sister, Robin, in Florida. They were both notified by phone.
Apparently, Brett was standing outside because a friend of a friend knew Susan, and so Susan was able to call him and tell him that Kaitlyn had been in the hospital, and the detectives had just interviewed her. Why his phone was off the hook, I'm not sure, but I guess he lived kind of like a bachelor pad, like a couple guys all together, so it's possible that somebody else was just on the phone.
Yeah, because otherwise that would be suspicious, right?
Yeah, he's just standing in the driveway.
Wait for the call, wait for the police to show up.
Yeah, it's 2 a.m. Why is he standing in the driveway? Like, why wouldn't he be like, get off the phone, I need to call my parents?
He was done entertaining for the night.
It's from his mom. She's saying, like, they assumed that he was, like, entertaining a girl. It's the most PG way that I think Lois could have described that situation.
Like, I know my son is a playa.
Yeah, exactly. Yoon was at the apartment alone when police arrived to let him know that Kate was in the hospital. When asked about his whereabouts, Yoon said that some of his friends had picked him up, and they had some drinks, played some pool, before being dropped back off at Kate's apartment around 10 p.m. The police found a note supposedly left for Yoon by Kaitlyn. This note read,
"Hun, where are you? I know you're still mad. I'm so sorry, okay? I miss you today. I went to Mom's house to return these books. I'll see ya. Love."
It doesn't sound like a note that an honor student would write, does it?
I'm also thinking the time he arrived back to the apartment, this was close to when she was shot.
Exactly.
Does not look good for Yoon.
No, it looks kind of like he's covering his butt right away.
Mm-hmm.
It's grammatically not right, and there's also misspellings. It looks like somebody who doesn't speak English as their first language wrote this note as a quick way to be like, oh, look, she told me where she was going. She's not here.
Right.
The police performed a gun residue test on Yoon's hands, but the results were negative. He told detectives that he and Kate fought sometimes, but he didn't realize that she was thinking about breaking up with him.
Do you think he hired someone, though? Or he could have, allegedly?
It's definitely a possibility because there's a huge Vietnamese gang or mafia associated with this case. There was some speculation at the time that maybe somebody had been hired to gun Kate down because she knew too much about Yoon's activities.
Shortly after being released by law enforcement, Yoon arrived at the hospital. From Kate's bedside, he just kept repeating that it was all his fault. Wonder why. Lois and Dawn sat for a press conference the morning after Kaitlyn's accident. At the conference, Kate was described as smart, funny, and an inspiring doctor. She didn't do drugs or drink and had a steady boyfriend. The public was asked to submit any tips in what was assumed to be a random attack. While at the press conference, Kate took a turn for the worse. She had a massive hemorrhage in her brain that left her brain dead.
Kate was a registered organ donor, and with the confirmation that she was brain dead, the organ donor team visited the family. Her sister Robin's plane was due from Florida that night at midnight, but the surgeon didn't want to wait for Robin to arrive. It finally got to the point that the family told him that they would not donate any of Kate's organs if Robin couldn't say her goodbyes first. At midnight, when Robin arrives, the surgeon is pacing up and down the hallway. Then he declares that he got another heart to the family. He also had already unwrapped Kate's head, and Robin saw the gunshot wound in Kate's temple when she went in to say her goodbyes. Like, what the hell is wrong with this surgeon?
I was thinking the same damn thing. Like, all these officials, the officers, the medical staff, it's frustrating.
Yeah, like he was in such a hurry to get her back to the operating table. He already unwrapped her head. Like, come on, man.
Disrespectful.
Less than 24 hours after her attack at 8:15 p.m. on July 17th, 1989, Kaitlyn was declared deceased. She would donate 6 of her organs to 5 recipients.
The 4 remaining children and Yoon stayed the night together in Lois and Dawn's house. Within a couple of days, it became apparent that Kate had not been telling her family the whole truth about her life and relationship with Yoon. One of Kaitlyn's friends told her family about what had really happened in March 1989 when Kaitlyn and Yoon had taken a trip to California. Kate had told her family that they were taking a trip to Disneyland in California and staying with Yoon's sister. They actually stayed at a hotel, knowing her parents wouldn't have approved that they were staying together. Yoon didn't have a sister at all.
They had become involved in a car wreck scam in California. Yoon and his friends worked with a lawyer who staged car accidents in rental cars. Then everyone in the car complained of various pain and received insurance payouts. The scheme was part of a larger insurance fraud ring by a Vietnamese gang.
You don't say. I have such a weird feeling about Yoon.
Agreed. Things are not so on the up and up. Kaitlyn and Yoon were paid $1,500 for their part in the scheme. Kate had rented the car with Lois's credit card when they were rear-ended. So remember, Yoon is pretending to be under 21, and Kate is 18, so neither one of them can rent the car. So they use Lois and Dawn's credit card, and Lois and Dawn were aware that they were in an accident, but Kate just kind of sold it to them like, hey, we were in a fender bender, everybody's fine, and the rental car company repaired the car.
Why was Yoon pretending to be 21?
He was pretending to only be 4 years older than her.
Ah, okay, because he was
And you have to be 21 to rent a car.
Yeah.
So they had to kind of swing it like, oh no, we're too young to rent a car, even though he clearly could have done that. But it probably kept his name off the books in this scam as well. Kate and Yoon used the $1,500 as a down payment for Kate's apartment. Not long after Kate's death, Yoon was notified that he could no longer stay in her apartment until her rent ran out. The landlord had already changed the locks. Yoon would call Lois Mom, and he asked her to contact the landlord on his behalf to at least stay there until the rent ran out. So Lois called the landlord to provide permission for Yoon to stay in the apartment. And again, a darker side to Kate's life surfaced. The landlord had changed the locks because only Kate's name was on the lease, and he didn't like Yoon. On several occasions, Kate had run over to the landlord's house and slept on their couch because she was too scared to stay in her own apartment. She had asked the landlord to change the locks, but then Yoon and his friends just broke the window to get in the apartment. Another time, she had locked Yoon out and he kicked in the door. And think about how quick that would have been, or how many occasions that would have been in a small period of time. So we know that they move in together right before she graduates. So this is, a 60-day period? She's murdered in July.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of activity in a short period of time. And the landlord is very upfront with Lois about this. You know, you had a great daughter. I liked Kate a lot, but her boyfriend and his friends are bad news. I'm not letting him back in my apartment. In explanation to Yoon, Lois just said that it was complicated, but that his name wasn't on the lease, so he couldn't stay at the apartment. Brett and Yoon went to the apartment to clear out his things.
Kate's funeral was held on July 21st, 1989. The funeral was so overcrowded they ran out of seats and people had to stand in the aisleways. After the funeral, Yoon told Lois that he was having problems sleeping, so she gave him 2 Valium to help.
You can clearly see that the family really liked Yoon. Brett refused to believe that Yoon had acted at all like the landlord said.
After being kicked out of Kate's apartment, Yoon had to find another place to crash. He ended up at a friend's military dorm room. The friend had gone out to drink, and when he returned about an hour later, Yoon was curled up on his bunk bed and looked to be asleep. After getting around for bed and turning off the light, they heard Yoon moaning. Turns out Yoon wasn't asleep, but had stabbed himself in the stomach with a 4-inch folding type knife. Yoon was transported to the University of New Mexico hospital for the injury.
He hadn't actually been having issues sleeping. He had taken Lois's Valium and then stabbed himself in the stomach in a suicide attempt. He had abdominal surgery and recovered in the hospital. He told law enforcement that he was depressed over Kate's death and felt that everything was his fault, and that's why he had attempted suicide.
Why, though? Why was everything your fault, Yoon? Why?
Spoilers here. We never find out. Lois visited Yoon in the hospital. She felt that he knew something more than he was letting on about Kate's death. She told Yoon that he needed to decide if he loved Kate enough to tell the truth. According to Lois, he paused and then said,
"I know. I'm deciding."
That was it. That's all she would ever get out of Yoon. He moved to Kansas City and got a new girlfriend and mostly disappeared from their lives.
When closing out Kaitlyn's final phone bill, Lois discovered 3 strange phone calls. The phone calls were placed from Kate's apartment to Santa Ana, California, on the night of her death. The first call was placed at 9:10 p.m., then 9:15 p.m., and a final call at 9:21 p.m. Yoon had been at the hospital at that time with the family. This meant someone else was at the apartment to make those calls. The phone calls were traced back to a lawyer in California, the same lawyer that had set up the car accident scam.
The family hired psychics multiple times. One psychic looked over the jewelry Kate had with her when she died. Lois was told that Kate's sunglasses had seen the killer, but it happened at night, so she must have known her killer. Kate's watch told the psychic that she was determined to be somewhere by 9 p.m. Kate's lipstick showed that she had been crying earlier that night. The family also hired Mike Gallagher, an investigative reporter, to look into Kate and Yoon's relationship. As Lois had feared after Kate's death, things were not great for her after Yoon had moved into the apartment. Mike Gallagher started with Kate's landlord. The landlord felt that Kate was comfortable with Yoon, but not his friends that hung around the apartment all the time. Apparently, Kate and Yoon's group of friends had a mutual dislike for each other. Kate and Yoon fought about money. She had also gone to the landlord's house because she thought that Yoon was going to hit her during one of their fights.
Mike also obtained a copy of the note Kate had supposedly written. He compared the note with other samples of Kate's handwriting and confirmed the handwriting was not the same. This means that Yoon, for whatever reason, was lying to police just hours after Kate's death.
Shocker.
The Arquette family submitted this information to the detectives, but the police refused to look into what they called the Vietnamese connection as the motive for Kate's murder. Another detective hired by the family would also dispute what the police considered to be facts. This investigator found that Kate's vehicle was hit by another car due to damage to the left rear bumper.
The police investigation found that Kaitlyn's Ford had been rammed by another vehicle, then struck a pole, and caused her car to go into park. Then Kaitlyn was shot at close range. The investigator hired by the family had a different perspective. He thinks Kaitlyn was shot, then that person struck her car, and the same person put the car in park. In 2003, the cold case squad determined that Kate had been shot after the car was stopped due to the accuracy of the shots. So this is just the family and police basically squabbling back and forth on how this whole thing went down. I don't know of any instances that I've ever heard where a car, it didn't fly across the highway, it drifted across 3 lanes of roadway, strikes a pole, and comes to a stop. I don't think it was that hard to jam it into park.
No.
It doesn't really make sense.
And you just quoted Kendrick Lamar's song, Squabble Up. Your eyes. You're squinting because you're don't listen to that kind of music. Kendrick Lamar, he's a rapper. But he has a song called Squabble Up, and you said squabble. I was going to say it before because you were talking about reincarnation, and it's actually in that song called Squabble Up. He says,
Wow.
Reincarnated. I'm a stargazer. And then he just...
Sing it, Angela.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on.
No, I've never heard that song, but I'm assuming it's popular.
Probably. Sure. After Christmas, Lois started taping flyers with Yoon and Kaitlyn's face throughout the Vietnamese areas in Albuquerque. Her husband warned that this could get her into a bad situation, and she needed to stop, but she kept on with it. One day while out with her daughter Robin, they came across some shady guys in the alleyway. The men chased Lois and Robin down the alleyway to their car. Luckily, they made it to the car and got the doors locked before the men tried to open the doors. The men jumped in their own car and chased Lois and Robin for several blocks. This still didn't stop Lois from hanging flyers, even though her family tried to discourage her.
Lois continued investigating the case herself, feeling the police were not doing enough. She went through Kate's address book and talked to Kate's friends. This turned up more information on Yoon's actions before Kate's death. According to friends, Kate was upset that Yoon would frequently stay out from 10 or 11 p.m. to dawn. Lois contacted the detective to see if Yoon was possibly working as a prostitute, but was shocked to learn that they were actually watching him as a potential drug dealer. 6 months after Kate's murder, the police insisted the attack was a random act of violence, and it appeared they were not looking for suspects. Then, in January 1990, the story suddenly changed when police arrested 3 young men in connection with Kaitlyn's murder. After a 2-hour interrogation, 16-year-old Robert Garcia admitted to law enforcement that he had been out on a joyride with Marty Martinez, Miguel Garcia, and Juvie Escobedo. This was after Robert had denied having any knowledge of Kaitlyn's death and had been hypnotized into remembering. According to Robert, Juvie had been driving a Camaro when he dared Miguel to shoot Kaitlyn.
A witness truck driver saw a Camaro chasing a red car and at least one man yelling, "You fucking bitch," out the window on July 16th. All 4 men were arrested and interrogated. All 4 of them denied knowing anything about Kate's murder. Concealed recorders were placed in the jail cells, and still the men only discussed how they were innocent. A psychic would tell Lois that the Garcias were hired to kill Kaitlyn. Lois assumed that Kate knew too much about the insurance fraud scam, and the shooting was a hired hit from the Vietnamese mafia. When she brought this up to Sergeant Lowe, he told her it was time to face up to the fact that Kaitlyn was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Several days after the arrest, the case started to crumble when it was discovered that Robert Garcia was in a juvenile detention center on July 16th, and he couldn't have witnessed the dare. Even with this knowledge, the APD still attempted to charge Juvie and Miguel with first-degree murder. They would spend 10 days in jail before the charges were dropped. By late February 1990, Juvie and Miguel would be charged with first-degree murder again by a grand jury. Miguel was already in jail for unrelated charges, but Juvie decided to go on the run from the warrant. Juvie would be on the run for 18 months before discovering the charges were again dropped in April 1991. Juvie and Miguel were inconsistent with their stories, and neither could describe what Kate looked like. The truck driver that had seen a Camaro chasing the red car gave a partial license plate, but it wasn't the same as Juvie's plate.
Unfortunately, even with the case being dismissed, Miguel and Juvie were advised they could be pulled back into murder charges any time until they died. These are 21 to 16-year-old men, and they're telling them you can be pulled back into murder charges any time until you die. What appears to have been a false arrest of these 4 men completely derailed their lives. Juvie had dreams of marrying his sweetheart, becoming a coach, and a police officer. He was 21 years old when he was arrested. Juvie would become an alcoholic, and it eventually split up his family. In a 2021 Albuquerque Journal article, he said,
"In my mind, the first thing that comes out when I meet somebody new is like maybe there are alternate reasons why they want to talk to me. The thinking starts going sideways, and for the bad, not for the good. So I'll just stay to myself."
It's a pretty sad statement. Juvie is sober and finally out from under the possibility of a murder trial for Kate's death.
Miguel Garcia was 18 years old when he was arrested. He's alive today and in contact with Juvie still, but we don't have any additional information. Hopefully this means that his life was not derailed by the false arrest. 16-year-old Robert Garcia died young in 2003. His body had been dragged into an alleyway. He had died from an overdose of cocaine, alcohol, and morphine injection. Marty Martinez died on New Year's Eve 2014. He was found unresponsive behind a dumpster with benzodiazepines and ethanol in his system.
He was also found with a bottle of vodka, lemon extract, and orange extract in his pockets. So I'm assuming he was drinking the orange and lemon extract for the alcohol content.
I mean, people do this. They drink extract for
Yeah.
alcohol content.
The same situation as people that drink vanilla extract or like cough syrup.
In my right mind, I know like you use vanilla extract for baking, but I wouldn't drink the whole bottle straight.
I think the difference there is that, first off, are you buying real vanilla extract or are you buying imitation?
Oh, it's the real stuff.
Real stuff with rum
Yeah,
or something. Apparently, it's not rum in this situation.
I get mine from Mexico.
Yours might have alcohol. Don't drink it. But also,
I won't.
you're baking with it. So it's cooking out the alcohol, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In this case, you don't know what is actually in there that he's drinking because I'm sure it's not vodka or rum.
Yeah.
But it would be cheap-ish, probably cheaper than a bottle of vodka.
I just wonder how drunk you could get because aren't they pretty small bottles?
It's going to take a lot of vanilla extract or a lot of lemon extract. Even just think about drinking lemon extract. Like, ugh, that doesn't even sound appealing.
Mm-mm.
Just makes you think of like Pine Sol because it's got like lemon and orange. Like, ugh.
Ugh. Yeah, that smells too strong.
It's sad too because they were both young. Yoon was brought back in and interviewed again after police were pressured by the family. He did confess to his part in the car insurance fraud, but denied being part of the Vietnamese gang. No charges have been filed against Yoon or his friends. They literally just let him leave with no charges and cleared him as a suspect. Who Killed My Daughter was a book published by Lois Duncan in 1992. The nonfiction book became a bestseller and brought some much-needed light to Kate's case. Good Morning America, Unsolved Mysteries, and Larry King Live aired information about the case. The FBI contacted Albuquerque Police Department with a request to assist in the murder investigation, but the APD declined the assistance. The resources that the FBI could have provided, and APD saying, nope, we don't need them, but they also have no leads.
How is that even legal? If the FBI wants to step in, don't they just do it? Why do they need permission from a police department?
It's a very accurate question there. I'm not sure. I think generally they just say, hey, this is our jurisdiction. We're taking it over. Like, you don't have a choice. But maybe because it wasn't federal, it's literally just New Mexico. They didn't actually have jurisdiction there. They're just offering the help.
In all the shows that I've watched, the FBI just rolls in and they're like, yep, we're taking this over now, boys. You can spread out.
Go on home.
Yeah. So maybe it's not like in the movies or the shows.
Apparently not. When interviewed about Who Killed My Daughter, the Albuquerque Police Department Chief of Investigation said, I don't read fiction. It's nonfiction, man. Good Lord. There were some serious bad vibes between the police department and the family, and I think it might have been due to the amount of psychics that the family was hiring. So maybe that's why he called it fiction.
An Unsolved Mysteries episode first aired on January 27th, 1993. Oddly, the police refused to participate in the episode. Any tips submitted to the Unsolved Mysteries also had to be submitted to the family and police separately, because the police were no longer working with the family.
Isn't that odd? I don't think I've ever seen another episode of Unsolved Mysteries where law enforcement declines to participate. Usually they're just hoping to solve the case.
That's very odd. And like you said before, with the family digging into so much of the psychic stuff, the police said, she's on another level. Like, we're not going to entertain this whatsoever.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Lois seemed to have a talent for predicting events in her books and real life. In her book, Don't Look Behind You, the heroine, April, was based on Kate's personality. April is chased by a hitman in a Chevy Camaro. The hitman's name in the book is Mike Vamp, and Miguel Garcia's nickname was Vamp, short for vampire. In Summer of Fear, the heroine's boyfriend is named Mike Gallagher. Both books were written and published before Kate's murder. Lois would only write 2 more young adult suspense novels after Kate's death, 1997's Gallows Hill and 1998's I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. She moved to nonfiction and children's books after that.
She also had a strong instinct to keep Kate from leaving on July 16th. In Who Killed My Daughter, Lois actually writes a scene where she tied Kate up and didn't let her leave the house. But in real life, she obviously didn't stop Kate from leaving, but did ask her to write down Susan's phone number before leaving. In another strange twist where her books almost predict real-life events, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, the book, written in 1973. The mom in that book has, again, like an instinct or a strong feeling that Julie, one of the main characters, like she should not leave. She needs to stay there. And it is almost exactly what Lois describes herself feeling about Kate on that evening of July 16th. But this would have been written 15 years previously. There is just so much of that overlap with Lois. It's like she's, I don't know what the word would be for that.
I would say received all the psychic's help and kind of grilled into that motion because she was feeling like she almost predicted some of these things. And so she had to believe in that.
I think she was more open to a psychic's help than the police were at the time.
Oh, for sure. She had a lot of emotions that were coming out of her. And I think she expressed that in her writing, but it's weird that it was beforehand, before all this event that her daughter was murdered happened.
Yeah, it's definitely eerie. The Albuquerque Police Department was a mess, with quite a bit of police corruption at this time. Money and drugs went missing from the APD evidence locker after officers that had been reprimanded for other issues were put in charge of the evidence. A couple officers were busted for tampering with evidence in their own cases. A senior deputy was charged with kidnapping and raping 2 young men. He was also found guilty of drug trafficking. One of the officers, Matt Griffin at APD, was also a bank robber going by the Ninja Bandit and ended up being sentenced to life in prison. The man who owned the 4-inch knife in Yoon's suicide attempt was a good friend of Matt Griffin. The Albuquerque Police Department was just a hot mess express at the time of Kate's murder.
They were very corrupt.
Yeah, corrupt and cruel. I'm sure there was some calculating going on in there as well. Mr. Matt Griffin. That's a bank robber. I'm like, the Ninja Bandit. I kind of want to look him up and see. Can we do an episode on the Ninja Bandit? It's a cool name, at least.
I'm down. I'm down for some ninja exposure on the Corrupt podcast here.
To get that name, I feel like he was doing something above and beyond in his bank robbing.
Like he had to be doing flips, right? And
right.
And like maybe his face was covered. And so he's just like flipping through these banks. Had to have.
He's sneaky ninja in the dark. Robs the bank. I'm not sure. I didn't look him up yet, but I think we definitely should.
Matt Griffin. Come on. Ninja.
And what are the odds that his good friend is the one that gave the knife to Yoon?
Yeah. This whole story is just, it's too many coinkydinks.
It really is.
There's just so much that's mixed and mingled. You just don't really know what to believe and what to not believe. As we continue on, like there's even another subject that we're going to talk about that's like, what the hell is going on? Like it's just, this whole thing is...
This whole case is just nobody looking at it from a common sense angle, except for the family.
In her book, I Know What You Did Last Summer, this is literally like, I don't know what you did. I don't know anything. It's up in the air. So in 1995, while he was in jail, an investigator hired by the Arquette family interviewed Paul Apodaca. Paul said he was in the neighborhood to buy drugs from a dealer named Lee. Lee just happened to be the brother of the APD officer who was a friend of our officer at the scene, Marianne Wallace.
So to break that down, Paul goes to buy drugs from Lee. Lee is the brother of a friend of Marianne Wallace.
Brother of a friend.
So, yes. Because it's a very confusing sentence.
It is confusing. So Marianne had a friend,
Whose
and this
brother was a
friend's
dealer.
brother was a dealer.
Yes.
Yeah, we got this. Okay. Paige broke it down, y'all.
Rock and roll.
The family felt there might have been some police corruption involved, and you can clearly see why. They were also continuing to work with psychics and their own investigators because the police stopped responding and providing updates. Lois and her family received multiple death threats during their own investigations. She felt it was from the Vietnamese gang or mafia. Kate had been killed as a way to silence a liability in a multi-million-dollar insurance scam. The case went cold with no updates or persons of interest. Police said the case was open pending new information, but they also were not actively working it. Lois helped from the Resource Center for the Victims of Violent Death, a center to help crime victims and their families with their financial grief and law enforcement needs.
One to the Wolves, A Desperate Mother on the Trail of a Killer book was written by Lois in 2013. Lois described Who Killed My Daughter as a book about grief, and One to the Wolves is a call for action 24 years after Kate's death. This book would be Lois Duncan's final novel. Lois died at the age of 82 on June 15, 2016, without seeing Kaitlyn's murder solved. She had a stroke several years before that possibly contributed to her death.
The family continued looking for justice, and in 2018 put up billboards asking for answers. 32 years after Kate's death, her murder would finally be solved, but not by any police investigation work. Paul Apodaca would confess to murdering Kaitlyn in July 2021. He was arrested at the University of New Mexico for probation violation and almost immediately confessed to his role in 3 murders and 3 other attacks. If police investigated the man with the gray VW Beetle standing next to Kaitlyn's car, they would have found that 28-year-old Paul had quite the criminal history.
Also, what is it with men and their VW bugs?
I know.
Being murderers.
We just got over with Ted
Back
Bundy.
to back.
Come on.
Paul had several auto burglary charges, 3 rapes, tampering with evidence, and an auto theft on his record at that time. In addition, remember, he told them he was there to buy drugs, so they could have arrested him for that as well.
Paul said that he committed the crimes because he hated women.
The Unsolved Mysteries episode was updated in 2021 when Paul was arrested. I didn't know that they updated the episodes, but I was pleasantly surprised by this.
We'll have to update our podcast too sometime.
I have alerts set up so we can share updates as they happen.
Look at you. See, I wouldn't be able to run this podcast by myself. That's for damn sure.
Teamwork makes the dream work. In June 1988, Paul had been working as a college security officer. Althea Oakley was walking home from a fraternity party at the University of Mexico when she walked by Paul. He pulled his car around with the intention to kidnap and rape her. But then Althea smiled at him, and he decided to stab her to death. Paul told police,
When she walked up, she smiled at me. She said hi, and she smiled at me. That's the worst part. That's the worst part. I hurt someone that smiled at me.
Paul's job at that time as a security officer was to help women get to their cars safely at night.
I mean, this guy. You know how some people say be kind to everyone you meet because you don't know what they're going through? Kindness didn't win this round because it led to a murder.
That's only if we believe that he was planning on just kidnapping her and raping her, and that he didn't actually mean to kidnap her, rape her, and murder her.
I mean, it sounds like he has issues.
Lots of issues.
If that set him off, just a smile, a generous smile that a young girl was giving him, it didn't make him think, oh, women in the world aren't so bad.
Apparently not. And it's a very sad situation for her family because they, like Kaitlyn's family, wait 30 years for answers.
It's terrible.
13-year-old Stella Gonzalez and a friend were walking down the road at 1:15 a.m. when they got into a confrontation with Paul. From his car, Paul fired several shots which struck Stella and led to her death.
A couple weeks after Stella's September 1988 murder, Paul had shot out of the window of his car and struck a transgender man that he thought was a woman. The man would survive the attack. Paul would serve jail time for this attack, but he was back on the streets with a gun the following July. And in July 1989, Paul would shoot and murder Kaitlyn Arquette. He had been driving around Albuquerque looking for a victim. According to Paul, Kate was just in the wrong place at the wrong time when she pulled up beside him. He shot her, then she drifted across the road and struck the pole. Paul pulled over beside her to see if Kate was still alive. This is when Detective Ronald Merriman pulled up. Paul told the detective he was just there checking out the car, and then he drove away.
After Kate's attack, Paul shot into a moving car at a stoplight and struck a woman in the face. Based on newspapers, this woman lived and was identified in 2024. Unfortunately, the statute of limitation has run out, and no charges can be filed against Paul. Paul confessed to shooting into a moving car and hitting someone in the back in 1990. The victim has not been identified. According to Paul, his attacks then stopped for 5 years because he had picked up a felony charge and could no longer carry a firearm. In 1995, Paul raped his 14-year-old stepsister. He was sentenced to 9 years in prison. He committed this crime so that he could join his brother in prison while his brother served a murder sentence.
Yeah, let me just rape my 14-year-old sister to join my brother in prison.
With his murder sentence. Yeah, it's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah. In 2012, Paul attacked his girlfriend and stole her car. Paul was sentenced to 12 years in prison for assault with an aggravated weapon, but only served 8 before being released in 2021. In March of 2021, Paul was homeless. He told his probation officer that he would move into a homeless shelter, but did not follow through. That started the ball rolling for his probation violation arrest in July 2021. Over 5,000 rape kits from the 1980s and the 1990s have been submitted for review. 2 of those kits have been linked to Paul since his 2021 confession as well. One of those rapes was of a child under 13 years old. Paul says that shame finally led to his confession.
I think that he had been in jail for 9 years and was living rough after his release. It seems to me that he might have confessed to going back to the life he knew, with 3 meals a day and a bed. According to Paul, though, during his last year in prison, he found a copy of Lois Duncan's Who Killed My Daughter, and it convinced him that it was time to come forward and provide closure to the families. Paul was charged with Althea's murder in August 2021. In December, he was charged with Stella's murder. Then finally, in February 2022, Paul was charged with Kate's murder. Paul pleaded guilty to 3 counts of second-degree murder for Kate, Stella, and Althea in 2024. He also pleaded guilty for 2 counts of rape. His attorney attempted to have Paul's confessions thrown out, but after 2 months, the judge denied the request. The APD confirmed that Paul knew facts about the 3 murders that only the murderer would know. He would be sentenced to 45 years for 3 counts of second-degree murder, aggravated assault of an officer, first-degree rape of a child under 13 years old, and kidnapping.
The sentencing hearing statements were done over a Zoom call.
I want Apodaca to go to sleep every single night thinking about my little sister in a graveyard, rotting beneath a stone that speaks to our family's love and loss,
said Carrie Arquette, Kaitlyn's sister. Robin, Kate's other sister, said,
"She was romantic and brilliant and planned to be a doctor. She might have done something wonderful for the world if you hadn't stolen her life." Paul is currently serving his sentence at Lee County Correctional Center. He is 57 years old. So with a 45-year sentence, it's unlikely that he will ever leave prison alive.
And on that note, we can finally say, I know what Paul did last summer. That was cheesy. Yeah.
I think it was the cherry on top.
Yeah.
And it was July of 1989.
Yeah. I like to deliver those cherries.
Done. It's kind of like a mic drop. We would love for you to become part of the Corrupt crew. You can find us on Patreon with multiple tiers and PayPal. This will score you our appreciation and will announce your name in a future episode. Both links are in the episode notes. Case suggestions and feedback can be emailed to us at corruptpod@gmail.com.
The sources for this episode would be listed in the episode notes. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. Don't forget to subscribe to catch our new Corrupt content. Please also leave us a review wherever you're listening to this episode. Bye!
Bye!